Welcome back to the Joust About Careers podcast, where you can learn about careers from the people who are actually in the trenches every day. I'm your host, Bratt, and I want to see all people make good career and life decisions. This week's highlights feature Luke Kohls, an account manager with Palo Alto Networks who used to be a high school math teacher at Van Buren. The highlights focus on what Luke does at Palo Alto, how he decided to make the move from education to tech sales, what helped him make the change, and the positives and negatives of the career. If you like what you hear from Luke and want to learn more about his career journey, you can always watch or listen to the full interview. And if you find this podcast useful, please share it with someone else who could benefit from it. Enjoy the show, and I'll see you back here next week for the next new episode.
Palo Alto Networks. I've been here for about a year and a half, and I actually just got promoted. So I was a business development representative. Basically, that role entailed I supported some field reps who were throughout the Southeast, Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, and Florida. There were 7 of them, a couple in each state. Florida had 3, being as large as state, and basically worked remotely here in Raleigh, North Carolina, to support them, to really drive. My main goal was to drive new business for them, right? They had, repeating customers, and they tried to expand the business with our security portfolio, which I can go in a little more depth later on. But my main goal was really just picking up the phones, cold calling people that, had no idea, who I was. So very challenging, but it's a very, what do I want to say? Very, very challenging, but you learn fast at the role, what works, what doesn't, right? You pick up the phone from a cold caller, right? It just matters the timing sometimes. Sometimes, like, me personally, I might be willing to give them the time of day, hear them out. There's other times, they call it a bad time. So that's part of it, learning that. A lot of, today that role was more into the social media as well, like on LinkedIn, prospecting on there, and emailing and coming up with creative emails. And now world of AI with like a chat GPT has been amplifying that. So it was, that role was really inside sales type, what you kind of call it, and really trying to drive new business was the goal. Since then, I recently, here in August, am now what we call SMB, or small to medium business size organizations. I'm an account manager. So I actually have my set of accounts. So I have, such and such number of customers, as well as some of those, new businesses that we're looking to get in front of. And whether we're competing with some of our competitors or not, we're really just trying to promote some of our new technologies. So that's a little background about my role here at Palo Alto. So I think I was right on the bubble of, I had 7 years of experience, and, we got to do this for a long time. So getting a taste of teaching in Ohio, at a little smaller school in Van Buren, being down here in a suburb of like Raleigh, North Carolina, at about quadruple the size of the school of Van Buren, and kind of just getting the feel for those. And just at that point of seven years in, it was kind of for me like an all or nothing. Like, hey, let's decide if I'm going to really be in this, and be a math teacher. Because originally I thought and it's still my goal, to be in leadership, whether it's in sales here at Palo Alto or wherever in the business world. So I thought I was going to go the administration route. The more I looked into that and got a shadow a little bit, I just decided not to. I would say, what really led and was a strong impact on me would have been during the pandemic, when everybody was working from home. So I was working from home, as a teacher. My girlfriend at the time, she was working home, doing actually at a competitor company for Palo Alto. I won't mention on this call, but still there. So I got to shadow a little bit. Our schedules didn't mesh up the greatest. So I got to shadow a little bit her day to day. As well as her sister was doing the same thing. So there'd be times where we go on a family trip or something of the sort. And that's really when, it clicked to me. We came back after the pandemic. I was went back for a full year after that, basically a year and a half ish. And just decided to, why not, let's interview. I kind of had a foot in the door or connections here at Palo Alto through, as I mentioned, my wife now and her sister kind of knew some contacts. And I said, what's the worst that can happen if I interview, and I got to that point where I wanted to develop some new skills. Not that teaching's easy by all means, but I just felt I was a little complacent, in terms of just teaching math over and over again. It came to a point where it felt like I just kept relearning, some of the basic algebra and things of that sort. And it was just that I just came to that point early in 2022. I think it was about January or February, and it was like middle of basketball season. I was just like, man, I'm gonna give something else a try. I was fortunate enough, I interviewed, got offered that position here at Palo Alto Networks, and kind of just been here and been happy so far. Yeah, to basically, answer that, it's not necessarily, they'll look at the resume, but it's, if you can get that initial interview and you can prove, here's where I have value, here's some skills that I built, and match them to what, you got to know what that job is really well. You can't just apply for that job without knowing the day to day, right? So it's also about networking and reaching out to people and learning more. Something I did as well, I was fortunate. I had contacts who used to be teachers that were then into sales, whether it was cybersecurity or not. And I got connected early on, and even well before I started interviewing or applying, I was reaching out to them and just asking them, hey, what's your day-to-day like? What's the change like? And those types of things to help me prepare to get to that point when I was able to make that jump. And I think what really helped me was some of having to do the interviews remotely and present some presentations. They basically say, hey, like, we'll give you, I think I had the weekend, present to us what you know about Palo Alto Networks. I was like, well, I know nothing. I had to really prepare, right? And do this and present. And I came up with a creative way to do that, having that, teacher background of, hey, how can I come up with a creative lesson? How can I get the buy-in on something that's not fun necessarily? I think really helped me get the foot in the door and get this career jump started. Not to just, beat AI like a drum, but, for us, tech sales, or really the cybersecurity, isn't going away, right? It's, the economy's a little up and down right now. Sales can be tough. It can be challenging. But right now, what we're seeing, the threat vectors, the bad guys, so you say, are getting more advanced with, having AI on their hands, which means we got to be more advanced, which means our end customers want to be more advanced. So they love hearing that. To really answer that question, the tech sales or selling tech sales is it's, booming and growing. Yes, there were some layoffs, but here internally, I know we just expanded our sales team twice the size here for the S&B market, and added a bunch of positions. There are a lot of jobs out there, and there will always be a lot of jobs out there in tech sales. It's very competitive. That's what I will say. Being in the sales and into tech, we have a lot of competitors who are trying to always one up us as we are them. Fortunately enough, we have a very good brand, Palo Alto Networks, in terms of firewalls, as well as we keep expanding the market to keep up with that technology. I would say that's the most frustrating part. You might lead a deal to the very end and then they choose the competitor, whether it be price or they have somebody internally that's used them in the past and doesn't want to be kind of retrained. That's a difficulty for sure. And there's new startups all the time that are out there, come up with a good idea, and that's just going to happen.
Thank you for making the Joust About Careers podcast part of your day. I hope you learned valuable information from this career story, and to be sure you don't miss upcoming episodes, please click subscribe on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform so you'll know when the next episode is released. Thank you for spending a portion of your day with me, And as always, come back next week to learn even more just about careers.